The Clerk.
Government Business Order for Day number 1, National Gambling Reform Bill 2012, resumption of debate on the second reading.
Before debate is resumed on this bill, I remind the House that it has been agreed that a general debate be allowed covering this bill, the National Gaming Reform Related Matters Bill number 1 of 2012, the National Gaming Reform Related Matters Bill number 2 of 2012. The member for Dawson.
Thank you very much, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker, and I rise to speak on this National Gambling Reform Bill 2012 cognate debate. As with most bills brought before this place by the Labor government, there are two sets of consequences. There are the intended consequences, and in this case perhaps it's a pipe dream to reduce problem gambling, but then there's also collateral damage, the innocent bystanders that get hurt by this reckless, dysfunctional government. Their track record to date is abysmal, and there is nothing in this bill that would suggest it will be any different here. Let's look at what will happen when a problem gambler walks into a club after this legislation is implemented. To play the pokies, they're going to have to register. Many of them will go to that effort. Then they'll have to set their limit. They can set the limit at whatever they like, hundreds or thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. If by chance they set a lower limit and gamble up to that limit, then are they going to go home and go and cook dinner, or will they go down the road, walk into a TAB, or go to the racetrack or the local casino, or go home and play the pokies online? Or they don't even have to these days. They can do it on their iPad, unrestricted, with all of the losses going overseas. Problem gamblers have a problem, and they are not going to have a problem finding somewhere to exercise that problem if they can't do it at the local club. The people that won't go looking for another option to gamble are the people who don't have a gambling problem. This pokies bill is just one more link in the nanny state chain. What right do the people in this place have to tell people outside how to live their lives and how to spend their money? If someone has a gambling problem, then we should help them. Don't hinder the entire country. One of the things this bill seeks to do is limit the amount of money that people can actually withdraw from an ATM in a club to the tune of $250, and a problem gambler will soon work around that one. They will bring great wads of cash in with them, stopping at ATMs outside the club. But the family that actually goes to the club, maybe Dad does a little flutter, spends $20 to $40 on the pokies, and shouts the family out for tea and a few drinks. How far will $250 go with that? Clubs in my electorate have all contacted me about the problems they will face with this bill, and I'd like to cover off on a few of the issues that they've raised. Certainly the major clubs in my electorate have all written to me with outlining the problems and the concerns that they have, one of them being the timeframes that actually are in this bill. The Productivity Commission recommended voluntary pre-commitment be implemented over a 6-year period, whereas the government is actually giving them just 3 years. So any club with more than 25 poker machines has the same time frame to comply as one of the big casinos, such as Jupiter's, would have. Then we've got, as I've said, the $250 daily limit, an unnecessary restriction on people's ability to access their money, and I'm told by the clubs that many of the patrons use those ATMs because it's considered safer and more convenient than using one in the middle of the street. Particularly elderly people find that they go into a club, they withdraw the money, they go out, jump in the car park that's secure and drive home. They don't like going into dark streets where they have to withdraw their money, and that is one consideration that needs to be taken into account. And what is also not considered is that many clubs, including a number in my electorate, actually have already installed voluntary pre-commitment systems in the poker machines. A lot of them are not activated yet, but they have that capability. But the problem with the legislation is it's actually saying that we need a nationalised system, a new system, so this technology will need to be ripped out of the machines, new ones put in there. They estimate, and it's a conservative estimate, that it will be $2,000 per machine to put this new nationalised system in it, and on top of that there's going to be money that they're going to have to spend for a monitoring system, a nationwide monitoring system. So these are all the problems with this legislation. And what is going to happen? What is going to happen here? Well, it's going to be more cost for clubs, less money for the community. And I want to go through that because the clubs in my community generate a lot of money for a lot of smaller sporting clubs, for a lot of other people in the community. Magpie Sporting Club, for instance, belongs to a collective group of organisations that have a primary goal of supporting the community. That's their mission and that's why they exist. Last year, Magpies fostered sport in the region by the way of providing $750,000 in community benefits, something they're committed to growing in the future. They've done that by the provision and upkeep of 7 fields used by sporting codes of cricket, rugby league, soccer and a dog obedience club. They've done uniforms for these different clubs, they've sponsored play equipment, they've paid for coaching, health and wellbeing clinics for players, they've donated to reputable charities, including CQ Rescue, a vital service that we have in our region, and the Cancer Council. If you strip away that club's means of providing those services, not by reducing problem gambling, but by discouraging the occasional flooder and introducing a whole new range of costs, who is going to provide those such services to the community? And you know, I could go on with North Mackay Bowls Club. They provide $300,000 in funding to various community groups in the Mackay region, and you know, they've already had hits to their bottom line and they still do that. I've got the Northern Suburbs Leagues Club, which provides $20,000 annually to funding to junior and senior football teams. They've said that these reforms will place a financial difficulty on the club that will probably see that funding having to be reduced. The Harrop Park Country Club. The Harrop Park Country Club provides $30,000 to affiliated clubs, $10,000 to the North Queensland Cricket Alliance, $9,000 to AFL Mackay. They donate to CQ Rescue as well, and they provide free of charge the venue for their numerous clubs and affiliates to use to raise funds through bingo. Maybe that's the next thing we're going to see restrictions on, bingo, from this government. But they provide a whole range of different things for clubs in their region, not the least of which is the upgrade of their own sporting grounds, which they have there, Harrop Park. You know, this is used for cricket, for AFL, for a variety of different sports. So if you strip away these clubs' means of income, what is going to happen to this money that they give to the community? It's going to dry up, and someone's going to have to pay that. It's probably going to fall back on the local council, which means ratepayers are going to have to pay more. But really, if this government is doing something which is going to have such a consequence on these clubs, on the sporting clubs, then really they should be coughing up the compensation. You know, will the government, sorry, Mr. Deputy Speaker, step in to the carnage that they've created and pick up the slack for all the clubs affiliated with Magpies, with Harrop Park, with all the rest of them? Well, we know the answer is that they won't, because they've actually maxed out their credit card already and they can't spend any more, or they'll never find Swanee surplus. The Magpie Sporting Club actually provides employment for 90 staff. There's hundreds of staff throughout all of the clubs in the Mackay region. The only way a business can remain in business, employing people, is by balancing revenue and expenses. And this bill very cleverly manages to drag the business down on both ends, reducing revenue and increasing expenses. And the most likely way to restore balance, unfortunately, will be to reduce wages. And that means that staff may go. In fact, that is the most likely outcome. And it's very sad, because there was a time when the Labor Party actually wanted people to have a job. And now Australian workers are just pawns in this political game and are just as expendable as the promises of this government. And, you know, if jobs are under threat in the big clubs, you can imagine what's going to happen in the smaller clubs. It won't be a case of losing some jobs, it'll be a case of everyone losing their job because the entire club will close down. I've already spoken with the manager of a large club in Mackay which actually took ownership of a smaller club as a result of the smaller club finding it difficult to make ends meet. This club has been in the Mackay community for as long as people can remember. And if this bill goes through, if that smaller club is forced to expend this extra money, the manager has told me it could be the end for that club, a local club that will shut down forever and a day. Another smaller club wrote to me about the devastating effect that this reform would have on them, and that is the Alligator Creek Bowls and Recreation Club in the northern part of my electorate. It's a small club with only 10 machines, and the Alligator Creek Bowls and Recreation Club, as I said before, probably faces that $2,000 cost to upgrade each machine, totalling 20 grand. And yes, they have a bit of time to do that, but the fact is that they won't be able to find that money. I'm going to go through their budget. They actually have income of just under $400,000 each year. Included in that is the income from those 10 poker machines, which totals about $115,000 a year. So that's over a quarter of their income. Their net profit before they take out setting aside for depreciation and disposals is just over $13,000. After they go through depreciation and disposals, they're set back to the tune of $34,000. So $34,000 a year they are under. They don't even have enough money in terms of the income they've got at the moment to replace their assets. And the government is talking now about doing something which is going to cost them more, make them have to upgrade each machine to the tune of $2,000, an overall hit of at least 20 grand, plus the ongoing monitoring costs. Or the other option is they just simply get rid of the machines and they lose over a quarter of their income. That club will shut its doors. They will shut its doors for sure, and it will be the consequence of this bill. The only club in the Alligator Creek community, the only place where people can go to socialise with others, have a meal in that community, have a drink with mates in that community, and it's being shut down. Well, the secretary of the club, as I said, wrote to me and they told me that they actually make cash donations, that small club, to many local clubs and groups in the community, usually very, very small donations, $100 at a time. Our greatest benefit to our local community is providing and meeting all the costs involved in providing the only facility where the large variety of small groups in our area can get together for meetings or hold club and group activities. There is no council community hall nor any other community facility provided, and we already struggle to meet this important shortfall left by governments of all levels. If our club did not exist, many groups would fold, as repeatedly happens when groups must meet at someone's home. Pokie machine revenues pays for our many licences to operate, the bar, super, any major repairs and electricity. If anything is left, we use that to improve our facilities. And while we've been in business since 1994, we still have a dirt car park. This isn't because we like it that way, especially in the wet season. It's because we haven't had enough spare money to seal it. So we just keep grading it in the dry season and living with the potholes in the wet. Dirt car parks are something more affluent city counterparts do not have to live with. And I want to go on with this letter. They say, from memory, local groups who have availed themselves of the club facilities are the Alligator Creek Times, the local community newsletter, the Polo Cross, the Pony Club, Trail Riders, Horse Club, Playgroup, Neighbourhood Watch, Mahjong, Fruit and Vegetable Growers, the Craft Group, the Tree Growers, the Fishing Club, the Super Quarry Action Group, the Grumpy Old Men Club, the Darts Club, the Bowling Club, the Belly Dancing Club, the Rock and Roll Club. The list of user groups continually changes and reforms as various groups start up and close down. They say the local council and the state government and federal department all actually avail themselves of that club's facilities for their own purposes, usually at no extra cost, on a regular basis. The club is where local businesses, lost and found notices, birthdays, anniversary greetings, etc., are all advertised free on-site and off-site notice boards. They try to encourage everyone to participate in something, as isolation is a noted cause of depression and a killer in rural areas. Along with that, as I've said, it is the only place for meals and drinks in the region other than the local roadhouse. But for socialising, entertainment, weddings, birthdays, wakes and other functions, as I've said, getting government agency information out, small group and larger community meetings, there are no other local facilities that residents could use. If we have to close our doors, no other club will be able to pay the bills and keep the doors open. The club's got 10 employees, all of them local. The funds that they inject back into the community aren't limited to wages, as they support local businesses and groups wherever they can. Some of the charities that they support, Camp Quality, Legacy, and their full ongoing year-long projects. They donate to Red Shield and the Cancer Fund, and organisations like Club Smile for a Child, Lions and the PCYC. So this is a club that faces closure under this bill. They know it. The Secretary has written to me saying they will not be able to afford to upgrade the machines. They will not be able to afford to not have the machines. They will close down, and Alligator Creek will go without the only community facility that they actually have in existence. And for what motivation?
The member's time has expired.